So, welcome to a new video. So in today's video, I will be modeling a treasure chest from start in Blender, and then I will be animating the open/close animation inside of Unreal Engine. So this is kind of how the end will look like. As you can see, I can interact with it and it opens the chest. Then I can also close it after a set amount of time. And this works for every single treasure chest. As you can see, even if I constantly hold, I will still wait for the animation to be finished. So, we might as well just jump into the modeling process. So while I was editing this video, I actually realized that the modeling process is way too long for me to fit in this video. So I will just, cut out to the most important parts. But if you wish to check the complete modeling from the beginning, I will leave a card in the top right corner where you can check the original stream, which in I modeled the treasure chest. So yeah, just so you guys know. So while I'm finishing up my modeling process, I will just like to talk about kind of why I haven't been streaming or uploading any videos to YouTube in the past 1 month. And truth be told, it's just that I was burnt out. I did not have any energy to do streaming, Unreal Engine, modeling, uploading videos. I didn't have energy to do any of that. And in the beginning, like while I was still feeling burnt out, I still tried to stream, but it did not go well. So I was just like, all right, I'm not gonna do shit for like 2 weeks and we'll see how it goes. And that's kind of exactly what I did. I didn't even open Unreal Engine for a very long time, and even Blender to finish the modeling. But yeah, at least now I am back and feeling refreshed. Actually, it has actually helped me a lot, and so that's kind of I wanted just to talk to you guys, because I've seen that my my channel took a bit of a hit. It was a bit of a drop in views and all that, but it doesn't really matter to me. My health is health. My health. Jesus Christ, why is it so hard to pronounce the word? Anyways, my health is more important than my YouTube channel. So yeah, I didn't really care that my views went down. Everything went down. So yeah, but I'm back now, and I think that the modeling has been finished, so let's actually continue on with the video. And finally, first time in my life, I have managed to kind of finish a 3D model. Alright, so it works. There's like not many details or anything like that, but that's kind of the point. This is just a testing kind of 3D model, which I will use to test my interaction system in Unreal Engine 5. So I didn't really care much about the details, to be fair. So now I have to kind of learn to kind of animate, I suppose, so that I have like an opening and closing animation. As you can see, there's also this bit of a problem. I think this origin needs to be here so that it rotates around that origin over there. As you can see, the opening and closing isn't really how it's supposed to be. So that's numero uno. That's the first thing that I need to find out. How do you do that? Then I have to find out how do you actually animate. I will probably animate inside of Unreal Engine. I think it would probably be easier than to, export it and all that So first I will probably need to find a way to actually import this into Unreal, and then from there I will see if I can kind of animate something, you know, because I've never done animation in the Unreal Engine, so it's probably gonna be fun. Probably. Alright, I'll I'll talk to you when I figure out how to actually import. Alright, so it took me a few tries, but I actually found out how you set the pivot point inside of Unreal Engine 5. Since when setting the pivot point in Blender and trying to export the object, for some reason the pivot point didn't get saved. But I found a solution to set the pivot point inside of Unreal Engine, and all you have to do is go into the modeling mode and then just find the pivot element under the transform category. And when you do that, you can just set where you want your pivot to be, and click accept, and that's kind of it. So I really wished I knew that sooner, but at least I know for the future now. Alright, so a bit of a progress update. I have successfully managed to animate the treasure chest, even though well, it's not exactly the best. And oh yeah, I also wanted to talk about this. Let me just... So as you can see, the treasure chest opens, sort of, and then we have, for some reason, it just, I don't know, scales up. I still don't exactly know the reason why this even happens to begin with, but I think it probably has something to do with the player moving towards the chest, which I still don't exactly know why this would even happen, but it's not a huge deal, because once the treasure chest opens, the game will be paused, you know, until the player decides to close the chest. So for me, I think that this won't really even be a problem. I will still like to kind of check exactly what's the reason behind this happens. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really gonna focus it on that much so far, because like I mentioned previously, it probably won't even be a big issue, because once the player opens a chest, we will pause the game anyways. But yeah, but so far it only opens when I start the level. And what I would like to implement next is to actually be able to, you know, kind of interact with the chest, and then it plays the animation through code, through C++. Yeah, that's kind of an update, and I'll guess I will check on with you guys whenever I finish with that. I found the problem with the scaling issue, and all I had to do was actually set the scale to 1 in Blender and export it like that. So I forgot to clear the scale and the transform, and now it actually works. So I animated the treasure chest using a level sequence. However, one problem that I found was that it doesn't duplicate. The level sequence only animates the singular actor. And so that means that if I have a blueprint of the treasure chest and I turn on the game, it will still play the animation for that singular treasure chest, which I set the level sequence. So that's a problem. So that means that I have to completely scrap all of the C++ code that I wrote so that I can use a level sequence. So I found a different way to animate objects, and it's simply the timeline node in Blueprint. Now I typically do everything in C++, but I checked online to see how much code I would need to get started with animating, and it's way too much, and I'm not bothered with it. So I guess for this I can use the blueprint. So right now what I do is every tick frame I call the timeline node and I play the animation. Now if you actually right click on the timeline node, it will open a new track. And what I have is a simple float track which just goes from 0 to 1. Then obviously every tick update I get the current value that the timeline is on, and I just multiply it by -40 because that is the maximum amount of degrees that I want to have on my chest or treasure chest. And then I just set the relative rotation of the top mesh, and that's how I actually get the animation going. Now obviously we don't want to call the animation every single frame, so what I did is I created two events that I can call from the C++. Those events will then trigger the code to happen inside of the blueprint. So I have one for the opening chest and one to close the chest. And so if we call the open chest event, we will call the timeline node and play from start. If we call the close chest, we will just call the same timeline node but reverse from end. So that way I can use the same timeline because it just does the same animation, but it's just from the end or from the start. Now while I'm holding the E button, you can see that the animation quickly changes between the opening / closing. This was very quickly resolved by simply having a boolean variable, for example like is animation finished, and then checking every time we call the open / close event, we will just check if the animation is already finished. If it is, then we can call the timeline node, and once that animation is finished, we can just set the anim finish to true, and that way we are checking if an animation is currently playing. And as you can see, it has resolved the issue, and it now waits for the animation to be finished before playing the closing animation, for example. And this is all that I actually had for you guys. Again, I'm very sorry that, I had to leave for a little bit, but I am back feeling better than I ever was. And yeah, so hopefully you liked this video. If you did, of course, drop that subscribe button, because I need those subscribers and I also need the views. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys, I don't know, whenever I can. Until then, bye bye.